Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone for joining us from wherever you are today. My name is Michael Ajay. I'm your host and International Business Development Specialist with Orama Corporate Services in Mauritius. Mauritius today has a strong and well-established banking system with a mix of international and local players offering a wide range of services, and the banking sector in Mauritius is playing an increasing role in providing tailored solutions in regional and international markets. Mauritius today is known as the gateway to Africa. It has forged a reputation as a safe, trusted, and competitive financial sector, which is supported by strong institutional arrangement and good governance. Despite these great strides, investments, securities, services, and onboarding for African businesses and entrepreneurs continue to be a challenge for both Mauritius banks and the mainland African community at large. Now, considering this risk and KYC due diligence and all the key criteria that may otherwise be or establish a smooth and beneficial banking relationship is why we are having this webinar. We believe that addressing these challenges requires a coordinated effort from the government, regional institutions, and international partners to enhance financial inclusion, develop robust financial infrastructure, and implement regulatory frameworks. Now, this brings us to the topic of the day, which is Mauritius banks and African businesses, unveiling the key criteria for establishing a beneficial and smooth banking relationship coupled with investment solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, this webinar is brought to you by Orama Corporate Services in collaboration with Bank One Limited in Mauritius. And I have some very special guests with me on the panel today from Bank One, which I'm going to introduce to you shortly. So I have with me Hansley Rathbone, Relationship Manager, and Kush Bidasi, the team leader for representing Bank One Limited in this webinar. Very brilliant and intelligent gentlemen. And without wasting time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go straight into the webinar. Prior to that, if you have any questions, feel free to utilize the chat box, drop your questions, and we'll pick them up immediately after the presentation or the interactive session. So let me dive straight into it. So I start from Hansley. Hansley, can you hear me?
Yes, I do hear you, Michael. Talk to me.
Fantastic. Good stuff. Now, Hansley, we're going to go straight into the topic, very interesting topic. Can you start by introducing or provide some introduction of Bank One and its regional or global presence?
Yes. So who are we? Bank One Limited is a joint venture between Self Finance and I&M Group. Self Finance is an international Mauritian group listed on the stock exchange of Mauritius and is today present in more than 10 countries across Africa and Asia, with a market capitalization of more than 11 billion rupees. And on the other side, we have our other shareholder, which is I&M Group. And the I&M Group is listed in the Nairobi Securities Exchange since 1950, and it operates mainly in 5 countries within the African continent, namely Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, and Mauritius. And the company's market capitalization was approximately 228 million USD. And I&M is a dominant player in the East African industry. So through the presence of our shareholders, we aspire to become Africa's preferred gateway.
Fantastic, Hansley. Thanks for that brief introduction. Let me jump also to Kush. And Kush, perhaps you can also give us some of the unique advantages that Mauritius offer as a banking hub for African businesses that are looking to establish an international banking relationship.
So hi, Michael. Yeah, definitely. There's no need to do any kind of introduction, I would say, to Mauritius. You've been here, so Mauritius offers a very nice quality of living, be it for the Mauritian people, being for the expatriates, and that's why Mauritius is also focusing on putting a lot of schemes for the expat people. So Part of them, of course, you might be having the premium investor certificate, which is given by the EDB, and a lot of various other schemes that are pushed by the EDB as well, whereby you can invest, you can work, you can retire, and last you can of course acquire in Mauritius. Bank One on our side, we are helping those expatriates or be it other African businesses, be it relocate, those old age, I would say, retire in Mauritius. It's simple. With as low as $1,500, you can start retiring in Mauritius. But again, Mauritius as a whole, there's no exchange control. We can transfer money in and out without any issues, I would say. But yeah, we've done a lot of, I would say, co-meetings with the EDB. The bank has been going around on various African grounds in a view to promote the country and the various advantages that we offer.
Perfect there. So if I may ask you there, again, back to Hansley, what are some of the specific incentives that are in place to attract African businesses to invest in Mauritius? And how would you say these incentives benefit those who invest in the country?
So from our side, what we do provide as service, it's not only traditional banking services, but we provide access to those clients, to those who want to invest to more than 60 markets. And we want to act, as I mentioned previously, as a gateway. Our role is to provide access to those clients, to those investments that they are not having access presently. We act as a facilitator from our side.
Okay, so from my understanding, you currently act as a facilitator from your side.
Yes, with regards to the investment, access to the markets, access to funds, we provide access to investment and exchange, FX, and so on. Yes.
Right. Okay. So you see, the purpose of this webinar currently is to educate the public. We want to understand some of the challenges that businessmen and entrepreneurs go through when what they encounter when they're trying to establish a bank account with in Mauritius. So can you tell us, or can you discuss some of the potential challenges that African businesses encounter when establishing a banking relationship in Mauritius, and how can they overcome them?
In fact, on this one, I would say the biggest challenge for those African businesses and also a number of investors would be on the KYC and the compliance side. KYC, I mean, of course, we have a number of jurisdictions and each having their own KYC requirements, which in some way, of course, in some countries might be the same level of KYC being done in Mauritius, but in some countries, the KYC approach might be different. So that's why we do have a number of investors and African businesses that do face some challenges, maybe in terms of the statutory documents, be it the certificate of incorporation, the register of shareholders, directors, and like Mauritius, you have the certificate of incumbency, the certificate of incumbency that we have. In some countries, these are not available. So that's where you see that differentiation causes a lot of issues to have banking relationships in Mauritius. But on our side, to be able to onboard, be it private investors, be it corporate investors, it's good to have a different approach and have an overall view of what is acceptable and not in terms of KYC. Definitely, the requirements will be different. The documents will be different based on several jurisdictions. But us at Bank One, the view is that we take a global view of what is the documentation that they can provide and how this is meeting our requirements internally, both internally and from a regulatory perspective, so that we know we have all the documentation in place. So to sum up, I believe KYC is something, but on our side, it's good to have a global view so that nobody's penalized, I would say. And like nowadays, I would say source of wealth, source of funds is key. So at Bank One, we have really established a very good framework which we are facilitating and simplifying things for African businesses and investors so that they can justify. So we do have a proper documents which will facilitate lives when onboarding.
Right. You mentioned regulatory framework over there, and I'm trying to understand here. And I'm also asking these questions on behalf of our viewers or our guests out there. So, is there a specific, reason behind the regulatory landscape? I mean, what I'm asking is, can you elaborate on the regulatory landscape in Mauritius and some of the African countries?
Yeah. So, in fact, there are various definitions, I would say. Since Hansley mentioned, we have our shareholders in Kenya. So, Kenya to us is almost like home for the bank, and the exchange of KYC is fairly simple. But if you look at the whole continent, it's good to have a proper regulatory framework in the sense that in Mauritius, when opening accounts, be it a corporate account, be it an individual account, there are of course some the minimum KYC requirements, be it the passport, the proof of address, which is key. And in Mauritius, though you might have the utility bills which can justify, but in some African countries, those might not be there. So that's why it's good to have a proper regulatory landscape um, that we can refer to when onboarding any kind of client. So, of course, this would depend from country to another, but at the end of the day, like I mentioned, the goal is looking at a bird's eye view so that nobody is penalized and be it the requirement or the kind of document the client is giving to us, it's good to analyze and checking how it meets Mauritius onboarding requirements.
Well, thank you very much, Coach. I would like for you to, I mean, elaborate a little bit further in regards to the what you mean by the requirements in Mauritius, like, or and also I'm trying to have an understanding here. So, for the fact that you do have, I mean, you have a great relationship with countries like Kenya, does it differ? Does it differ from maybe countries where you don't have a special relationship with? Does it mean that the KYC, I mean, due diligence would be slightly different? Is that the case?
To be honest, I would say not really, because if we take like the simple fact of a documentation, today
Mm,
definitely those most of the countries will be having any kind of utility bill, any kind of paper whereby we can ascertain the proof of address. But again, those specific documents that we need when onboarding African businesses, onboarding African banks, because at the private banking, we're also working with a number of African banks, and be it a country from Western Africa, be it from Eastern Africa, the
mm.
goal is checking how any kind of documentation fits in our requirements. So the business rationale, of course, is being in line with what the central bank is looking for. And at the same time, we also able to assist client. It's not like right at the inset, it's a no because
Mm.
I don't have this document from my side.
Right,
The
right,
goal is
right.
checking what kind of documentation you're able to provide based on any kind of jurisdiction and seeing if this fits our requirements. So that's why I mentioned, of course, the example of Kenya is there, but today we do have a good network from Western, Eastern to Western Africa, a number of banking relationships, which today, thanks to those banks that are also our clients, we're also able to rely on the certain level of KYC they are doing. So that's why I firmly believe that having as most as number of partners on the African continent is really key to be coming to Mauritius as well.
Just to tap on that, when you say second level of requirement, do you mean the requirement with your partners on the mainland African countries, like those in Kenya? Is that what you mean?
Yep. In fact, like I mentioned, say we do have partners be it in Kenya, be it in Ghana or Nigeria. Since we are comfortable with those partners, we can also rely on their level of KYC they are doing, be it from
Fantastic.
any kind of clients they are referring. So that's how I would say we are working towards having a smooth relationship for African businesses. Because if you rely only on what kind of documents the client would be able to give, there would be instances where the documentation might not fit the purpose, but where you do have banking partners on ground, this really helps onboarding.
I'd say that flexibility is very, very, I mean, interesting. I'd say that's really brilliant over there. Let me go to Hansley. Hansley, would you say that, I mean, it's just a follow-up question with Kush. Are there any particular African countries that you do not allow transactions to and from at all? I mean, for example, any countries on the red list?
Sorry, I was on mute. So from our side, the only countries for the time being on the African continent that we cannot transact with is Sudan, South Sudan, and Somalia. And for the other African countries, we have full access to transact to and from this country. There's no restriction.
Okay. Right. So I get it. So when you say that these countries, is there a particular reason why you are not transacting with these countries? Is there any international regulation that I mean brings forth these countries as non-transactional countries, or is it at the peril of the bank itself to say no, we are not going to transact with these countries? Are you doing this with any international guidelines? I'm trying to understand why, for example, we take Somalia, for example, why you wouldn't, I mean, bank with them, for example.
So for these countries, we are subject to international guidelines that we need to follow with our corresponding banks and so on.
Right. Okay. Okay. I totally understand it here. So what are the key compliance and KYC requirements for African businesses in that regard? And when investors are looking to partner, for example, with Bank One or Mauritian banks, what are some of the KYC and due diligence requirements, that just an overview that you basically look out for?
So Kush has already touched base this subject, but basically what we need to have the KYC of the company, from the certificate of incorporation, register of directors, shareholders, and we need the KYC of all the underlying, that is the shareholders, the directors, the UBO, and more importantly, we need to have sufficient evidence with regards to the source of fund and the source of wealth. And for that part, as Kush mentioned earlier, we have a smooth process and we have a guideline that we can help the client on how to prove that thing, the source of fund and the source of wealth. For example, it can be inheritance, it can be lifetime savings.
Right. Thanks, Hansley. Still on the KYC and due diligence, are there, what are your timelines in setting up a bank in Mauritius? I'm sure there are several investors and entrepreneurs out there that are looking to establish, a banking relationship with Bank One or Mauritius banks, and they want to understand what are the timelines. I'll give you a typical example. There have been circumstances, where
Yeah.
we have a bank say, "Oh, you can establish a bank account in, say, maybe in a week," but you have situations where it drags over and beyond. Maybe it can even take up to perhaps
Yes.
3 weeks. Yeah. So we're trying to understand. So what are your timelines? And
So from our
yeah.
yes, sorry. From our side, we expect the account to be open within 2 weeks, as from the moment that we have received all the KYC from our side and all have been vetted. Because in some cases, they are back and forth by the time we've verified the documents. If one or two documents are not in order, the client needs to get back to us. But as from the moment the client has submitted to us all the documents, the account should be open within 2 weeks for corporate clients. And for individual clients, we expect the account to be open within 48 hours. But there are circumstances that maybe there are missing documents, but we are expecting the account to be open within 48 hours for individual clients.
Okay. Kush, Kush, is there anything you want to add to that?
In fact, to be honest, 48 hours is very good when it comes to onboarding. And the good thing is that our onboarding is digital for private clients. So if there's any client from all those countries that we can bank with, except those which we cannot bank, all the requirements are already online. So it avoids a lot of back and forth in terms of sharing of documents, because online we're already capturing all those details, all those mandatory fields. And like I mentioned, again, the source of wealth, source of funds are properly established on our digital onboarding platform. So that's a good, I would say, aspect whereby we can onboard uh, private clients within 48 hours. And very soon, we would be coming with the corporate digital onboarding, and we are targeting a little more, maybe from a little than less than 1 week for the corporate onboarding. But when you see like the differences in the KYC, but taking less than, it can be also 1 day to open the account, I would say this is really a very good initiative, and setting up the tone of how keen we are onboarding clients. So, and from all those African regions, it's very important as well, because since we are mostly on the investment side, any market movements or fluctuations, of course, it can be good or it can be detrimental to the client. So that's why onboarding very quickly, so that our clients can benefit positively from what's happening on the market. So it's good on the individual side, and very soon the bank will be coming with the corporate onboarding.
Fantastic. So just to top onto what you're saying, Kush, is that you can actually expedite the onboarding process for clients even up to 48 hours, which is actually brilliant. So is that it's a case by case basis? Is that, if I'm correct, right?
Well, it can be a case-to-case basis, but ideally we are targeting to have more than 90-95% to be within those levels. Ideally, internally, it should be within 24 to at most 24 hours to have these accounts open. But on the safe side, because definitely sometimes there might be some questions about any onboarding, but roughly we are targeting at those 48 hours to have those accounts opened.
Kush, does the banks in Mauritius share information to other regulatory bodies across the
In
world, or
fact,
is the information confidential?
yeah, so in fact, of course, one of the main aspect is that confidentiality. So internally, even within departments, the information we do have the Chinese wall, information is not shared right smoothly. Depending on the request, then there's the requirement to share information. But with our regulator, of course, anytime the regulator would seek for updated documents on our clients, then since this is a regulator, we do it, is the central bank asking. But as of now, unless there's a request from any regulator about any specific clients, because the request also should be really justified. It's not like a country's central bank asking for the documentation of any other client who is not even a resident of that country. So we need to see the justification of any kind of document request. But else, as a whole, like we do have the international FATCA and CRS reporting, which we are doing. And this is our compliance team doing the FATCA and CRS reporting on a yearly basis. And gradually, we see a number of African countries signing up to the CRS. If I'm not mistaken, I think the latest one is Kenya, who now will be reportable jurisdiction. But yeah, we do share information when it comes to FATCA and CRS. But when it comes to pure KYC requirements, then definitely that would be really studied by the business line, by us, by the compliance before sharing any KYC. And also, it is of prime importance to see the justification, because at the end of the day, the client who should also be informed, depending on the rationale that we are sharing his KYC. So at some points, definitely there would be ways where we will be getting back to the client.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, it's the topic is Mauritius banks and African businesses unveiling the key criteria for establishing a beneficial and smooth banking relationship coupled with investment solutions. It's brought to you by Orama Corporate Services in collaboration with Bank One Mauritius. So, Kush, I'm going to take you again. Can you shed some light on your perspective of investor countries that have been gray listed and or downgraded by the international rating agencies? What are some of these implications? How does it turn out for them if they're looking to establish an account here or have a banking relationship with Mauritius? What is your perspective on that?
In fact, when it comes to the pure investment side, there's no restriction, because like we mentioned today, we have access to more than 60 markets, and the goal is to provide access internationally to those African businesses or private investors. So that's the main goal. But internally, for those I would say clients or potential clients who are coming from gray listed countries or whose country rating have been downgraded, we also take like a global approach. Definitely, there will be an additional documentation request. The account, also the level of risk with regards to that client would depend. But on our side, it's not like if a country is gray listed, means that we're not going to onboard the client. We will definitely study the requirement. We will see what are the investment the client is looking for. We will definitely have various conversations with those clients and see what they're looking for in terms of the investments. But surely there will be an enhanced due diligence done, because of course those countries have been maybe gray listed by international agencies, which we also need to follow their recommendations. And that's why we do check, we do a number of KYC verifications, enhanced KYC verifications. But at the end of the day, it's also to provide a solution to the client to be able to invest.
Nice one there, Kush. Thank you very much. Yes. Hasli, you have something to add up? You about to say something? Sorry.
No, carry on. That's fine.
Okay, good. So let's go. Let's carry on. So what let's take Bank One, for example. What is the control for your banking payments in terms of documentation? For example, does Bank One needs to, supporting documents for all transactions when it comes to a client, or is there like a threshold? And what is your stance for funds coming from high risk countries such as South Sudan? I would like to have your perspective on that, Hansley.
So for this part, as I mentioned earlier, for countries like South Sudan, Sudan, and Somalia, we are not transacting at all. No money to, no money from. That's okay. And for the other countries, we have three main requirements. So we need to have the transfer instruction from the client. We need to have the supporting document, which is most important. So we need to have maybe an invoice or an agreement. And finally, the transaction need to be in line with the client activity.
Right. Okay. So you're saying that. Carry on.
Yes, that's those three.
Right. So these are the key criteria that you look at. If I'm correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So what is your transfer timelines? Usually, I'm talking about international transfer. What is your timelines? How long does it take to, execute a transfer?
From our side, as long as we have those three criteria that has been respected and that we are satisfied with them, the transfer or process within 24 hours.
24 hours. Wow, that's brilliant, because there's certain jurisdictions that takes forever, and it affects entrepreneurs and their businesses as well. So 24 hours is an excellent timeline. I believe so. Okay, let's go on. Kush, let me ask you, can you shed some light on the no exchange, the popular no exchange control policies here in Mauritius? We know that in several jurisdictions, the exchange control policies there affect businesses hugely, whereas you have investors who are expecting goods to supply to their customers, but then you have exchange control policies that limits them on the amount of transactions that they're able to make in a day. And that is a huge impact on their businesses. And again, this is one of the reasons why we're having this webinar. So we're able to educate them on some of the opportunities that Mauritius can give them. So shed some light on the no exchange control policies currently in Mauritius and the advantages to the entrepreneurs or businesses, those that are managed to set up an account in Mauritius. What benefit do they get from Mauritius when it comes to no exchange control policies here in Mauritius? What are the benefits that these clients get?
To answer to this part, Michael, I think I'll just go back to what Hansley said in terms of the payments. So, ideally, all payments received at the bank are processed within the same day, unless, of course, it comes after the cutoff, then it is due for the next working day. So, for businesses, and especially who have really tight deadlines, this is very crucial when you're able to wire funds in and out, I would say, very quickly. This is key, and especially clients, I would say, looking be it on the investment side, be it on the transactional side, like doing imports and exports. This is very important. So when it comes to the no exchange control, meaning that we are able on our side to do payments, I would say mostly in the G10 currencies, we're able to do payments in and out very, very quickly, freely. And like you can see in some specific countries, before wiring dollars out, you need to have central bank approval, which in Mauritius, that's not the case. So we can receive dollars and wire in the same day. There's no issue in doing these kind of payments. And even from an investor perspective, I often get these questions because a lot of clients are investing maybe in US treasuries, investing in Euro bonds, a lot of African Eurobonds. And when these receive the interest payments, they often ask me whether I can transfer those interest payments back to their home country. So fairly the answer is yes. Once we receive those dividends, those interest portions, as soon as the account is credited, you can transfer those money out. And the good thing at the bank is that all our, I would say, all depending on the level of the amount, I would say 12,000 and below, our payments are STP. So once they release it from the platform, the internet banking platform at the bank, these are automatically processed and sent right away. So this is the STP that we have put forward for our clients. And this is a very good initiative, I would say, for those African businesses, because several times they might be having invoices like maybe $5,000, $10,000, and when it comes to certain banks, they need to verify those documentation, checking, looking for a callback, and everything. We have really simplified those aspects in the sense that all those payments, like I mentioned, below that $12,000 threshold, they are put on the internet banking. They are processed straight through. And I believe this is a very key advantage for those people. And when it also comes to investments, we ensure that those investments are done immediately, ideally within our trading desk. We ensure that all those investments are acknowledged and processed within the next 15 to 20 minutes, and so that the client can benefit from any movement on the market. But again, coming back to the exchange control, I mean, today, Mauritius, we are fairly okay, I would say, um, in terms of wiring any kind of those hard currencies in and out of the bank of the country. And at Bank One also, we have a huge network of correspondent banks, which facilitates transacting a number of currencies.
Wow, interesting one there. You spoke of internet banking, Kush. So, speaking of internet banking, what technological advancement would you say Bank One has made over the years to meet the changing needs of its customers, and how can businesses, basically from Africa, leverage these technologies to enhance their banking or investment experience?
Yes, for this part, since the last 3 years with our new CEO, Mark Watkinson, the technology part has become an important part of the development of the bank. So we have a revamped internet banking, and as Kush mentioned, now the transactions up to 12,500 go straight through. We have as well so the new Mastercards that we have provided to our client. And most importantly, we have an investment platform, the custody platform, which is available 24/7. And now, most recently, we have come up with a performance report for the investment portfolio. So the bank is continuously bringing new changes, new features so that the clients can benefit to the maximum.
Thank you, Hasley.
And
Maybe
if I can add on this one, Michael, sorry.
Go ahead.
We spoke about the digital onboarding, which was not there some time ago. And the requirement for this is, I'm also speaking about the experience and the question that I had recently, is that clients ask us if they should come to Mauritius to open an account. So the
I was going to
answer
ask
is
the
no.
question.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you this next. Yeah.
So the answer is no. You can open those accounts directly from the country you are. You go on the digital platform, you open it. So that's why we have seen that it is very crucial to have a lot of improvements on the technological side when it comes to onboarding, when it comes to investments and payments. Of course, that's the main three, I would say, aspect on the smooth banking relationship. But yeah, like Hansley mentioned, today we have a very internationally known custody platform which you can access at any time of the day, a number of reportings that can be done on the custody platform. Clients are able to access it at any time from any mobile device, and they can now view their portfolio in real time. And the good part is that the portfolio has the Bloomberg integration. So for some African clients, it can be a fund, it can be a CIS fund, and also some banks. Having a proper portfolio is important, because of course they need to do the internal valuation, they need to calculate the net asset value for the fund, and also those banks whom we are backing, maybe the treasury, they also need to do every day their reporting. So that's why we have the Bloomberg integration to capture the best kind of prices, the best kind of interest calculation for the portfolio. But like Hansley just mentioned, on the payment side, it's good for those African businesses to have a good internet banking platform, simple, smooth, straight through, so that they can easily transact. And very soon, we are coming also for the bulk payments. Today we're able to do like any kind of payment, but also when it comes to a number like 2-digit, 3-digit number of payments, very soon this would be live and will be able to assist some African businesses. Maybe on the salary side, we know there are some huge groups who have more than 500, 600, or even more than 1,000 employees, and the salary side can tend to be an issue. But this is something that we have identified, and we are trying to assist those businesses in doing bulk payments. So that's in a nutshell those technological advances that we have done so far. And again, be it on the investment side, especially for CI's funds, we have come up with the, like Hansley said, the performance reporting, which is live today.
Great. Thank you very much, Kush. That's very brilliantly explained. Let's look at credit cards and debit cards. Is there any particular incentive attached to the usage of credit cards? I mean, or debit cards? I mean, the certain opportunities which, with respect to other banks, for example, you can get access to a lounge at the airport when you're traveling, etc. Where do you stand when it comes to this?
So from our side, we are now with MasterCard, and with the MasterCard World Credit Card, which is available in Mauritian rupee, USD, or Euro. The client can benefit from 1% cashback on all purchases, access to airport lounges across a range of cities around the world, and up to 10% cashback on accommodation with Booking.com and on reservation of Travelstart. And on top of that, the client can benefit from a travel insurance. That's the main features from our credit card. But at the same time, we are working to add some more features on same.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
So Kush and Hansley, we understand, I mean, that banking is the backbone of every business. If you don't have a strong bank behind you, your business will go into turmoil. So what can Bank One do in terms of supporting entrepreneurs and businesses from Africa that are looking to expand or to invest into Mauritius and also globally? And what value do you bring to such investors? What can you offer them?
So Bank One, of course, like we mentioned, is part of two huge groups. It can be it is a CL group and the INM group. So when we're speaking about expanding within the African continent, of course, we have the presence of our shareholders in Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Uganda. But when it also comes to Mauritius, we are able to facilitate a number of investments. It can be investment in Mauritius on the local stock exchange, or internationally. One thing that we have seen is that many African investments somehow do not have access to international financial markets because there's a perception that, of course, this is Africa, this is high risk, we're not going to onboard these clients. So on our side, we mean, and when we say that we are here for Africa, is that we to onboard those clients and try to give them the access internationally. So the access in terms of investments, they're able to invest in all those countries that we have access. So once you open an account at Bank One, automatically it comes with an access of more than 60 markets. So for example, if a client is looking to invest on the US market, they can, if they want to invest on the London Stock Exchange. So this can be done easily. And if they want also to benefit from Mauritius, they want to invest directly on the local stock exchange or directly into Mauritius. There are various schemes, like I mentioned, the ADB. You have the Premium Investor certificate, which you can check with the ADB. So if any of our participants did, they can directly go on the ADB website to see a lot of the various schemes when it comes to investment. But Bank One, we're here, of course, to facilitate from a payment perspective, from an investment perspective. We're here to assist. We onboard those clients and try to make things easy when they want to invest and transact.
Thank you, Coach. What are some of the different types of financial products and services that you offer, and how do you compare that to those that are found in other international financial centers, such as maybe London or New York? How does your product differentiate from such jurisdictions?
So, of course, these if we see the USA or those big financial markets in Europe, definitely um, I would say there's no competition as such. But the good thing is that Bank One, we are here for Africa. Today, like just mentioned, those African clients are being de-risked by various, be it banks, be it authorities, and they don't have access to a number of investment solutions. What we can provide is that we are here to give them the access to international financial markets. One thing is on the fee side, today we are very competitive, very flexible on the fee when it comes to payment, when it comes to investments, but also the main aspect would be on onboarding.
Right.
Many national banks would not be looking at onboarding clients from certain jurisdictions. But from our side, besides those three that Hansley mentioned, we are open to all those African countries, and we can
This is
onboard, we can
comforting.
assist them. Yeah.
This is very comforting to hear that you are basically, involved within the African community, showing the Pan-Africanism, the will and the zeal to encourage entrepreneurs to access the advantages of Mauritius banks here. This is fantastic, and I'm sure most of the guests or viewers would appreciate the fact that you are paying, you know, key, you're giving it more of an attention. You're taking into consideration these African entrepreneurs and how you can help them take advantage to, leverage their businesses and push forward. So let's talk about still on the case of supporting businesses in the mainland African community. Let's talk about your lending rate. We understand, we see it on the news, we hear it everywhere in the world. The Mauritius has some of the lowest lending rates. And what is your take? What is your lending rate, for example? Do you also offer loans and to these businesses, entrepreneurs, individuals, and give us some insight on that.
So yeah, there are various kind of loans that we offer, like any bank. We do provide the mortgage facilities if we have investors looking to buy property in Mauritius and benefit from the residency property scheme. We are able to finance those mortgages. And good thing as well is that we have already financed a number of, I would say, expatriates who bought property in Mauritius. And other kind of loans, I would say, can be Lombard loans. Lombard loans is whereby you're pledging those investments, any kind of listed investments that the client has. We are able to pledge those against facilities. So in that way, we have done that for clients who came to Mauritius. So it can be for further investments into that portfolio itself, or maybe for again like property that we have been able to finance. So on the USD side, roughly would be about around the 3 months so far plus 3%, ideally. But of course, depending on the requirement, depending of the client, this can be definitely looked into and discussed in depth. But that's roughly the rates. But again, mortgage loans, Lombard loans, all these are available, I would say, quite readily.
I'm particularly interested in the aspect of you financing investors that want to purchase, for example, properties in Mauritius. That's something that I find very interesting personally. Okay, so let's go for the sake of time. Are you open to collaborating or partnering with other banks in the mainland African community to support and perhaps enhance transactions? Are you open to that?
Yeah, in fact, this is currently already live when it comes to payments, because like we spoke around payments. When we want to transact in local currencies, it's good also to have a banking partner. If I want to trade I want to transact in cedi, definitely I need a local partner in Ghana, and this applies to all those local currencies that we are looking to partner. So we do have, I would say, correspondent banking relationships already active with a number of banks across Africa, but also with other, I would say, bodies when it comes to investments. Because if we have clients looking to invest in the Ghana Stock Exchange or the Nairobi Stock Exchange, it's good to have a partner locally which will provide those access. So today, we already have access to local custodians, local banks to provide access from a transactional point of view, to have access to
Mhm.
the local currencies, and from an investment point of view, whereby we can trade directly on those markets.
Okay, interesting there. From your perspective, Kush, again, uh, what would you say an entrepreneur or an investor should consider? What are his primary considerations before opening a bank account or with a bank in Mauritius? What should an investor consider in selecting or choosing a banking partner?
The main
Kush, can you help
thing
there?
from my side would be on the onboarding,
The
because
onboarding.
if they select for a bank, and then while doing the onboarding you see a lot of back and forth or issues, then it becomes very tricky. And of course, those African business or investors, their goal is to have a smooth onboarding, a smooth transactional aspect afterwards. So from what I see it is that it's good to have a very good banking partner who understands Africa, who has those afterwards, I would say, who has those access to the local currencies and have those access to local markets. If a client is looking, of course, he's trading Pan-Africa, definitely he would be doing payments to and from various African countries. So having access to those is key. This is one of the aspects that you need to consider. Investment side as well. If we have a client from Kenya looking to invest in Ghana Stock Exchange, this is very important, and vice versa. But also, we need to understand the onboarding point of view. We can select a bank, but if they're not able to onboard, and once we've kind of share a lot of documentation and the last minute there's a no from the bank side, and definitely it's not worth for the business, then that creates a very bad impression and a bad onboarding process for the client. So in order to choose a very good banking partner, I believe it's good to have a partner that understands the onboarding requirements from an African point of view. What are the documents that they can provide? What are those that they don't have but will still meet the purpose? And on the second phase, to see what are the access that that bank can provide when it comes to transaction and investment to and from Africa.
Very well there. Ladies and gentlemen, it's important to choose a bank that understands the African terrain very well, that can easily onboard you and make your business transactions smooth. And Bank One offers such opportunities. So I'm very, very intrigued over there. And thanks for that insight, Kush and Hansley. So I've heard of Bank One's open architecture. What is it? What is the open architecture?
So the open architecture, what is it? So at Bank One Private Banking, we didn't have any in-house products. So we have several partners, maybe it is asset managers, FI, but we are here to guide our clients towards our collaborators, and then they choose which product they want to invest, they choose which asset manager they want to work with. And we have clients who already have an asset manager and they come to us, they can still work with the existing asset manager. So from our side, we act as a facilitator to provide access to the investment. We act as custodian. So in that open architecture, we are not in competition with the asset managers. We are only here to provide our service.
Right. Okay. Beautiful there. Thank you. So let's take two more questions and then we'll take some questions from our lovely guest over there. So let's look at the private banking aspect. Okay, maybe Hansley, you can take this one as well. What services are available for your Bank One private banking customers?
So, as we have already mentioned during the last 1 hour, we do provide traditional banking services such as fund transfer, cards, financing facilities. But we believe that our role is to provide solutions and access to our client through our one-stop shop and open architecture. And to highlight, Bank One Private Banking was recognized as Best Private Bank in Mauritius and Best Custodian Bank Indian Ocean 2023.
Brilliant there. Thank you very much. I'll take my final question and we would then look at the questions from our lovely guest there. So in your opinion, okay, Kush, this goes to you, but I mean, Hansley, of course, if you want to top up that, you may so wish. How crucial is it for African businesses to utilize Mauritian banking system as a strategy, and as a gateway for a seamless and smooth international transactional or investment, or perhaps as a custodian solution, the essence of this webinar? How crucial is it for African businesses to utilize the Mauritian banking system as a strategy gateway or for seamless and also a smooth international transactional and investment or custodian solutions?
So when it comes to the investment, be it investment custodian, like you mentioned, it is good in the sense that, firstly, we are not far from the continent. Many would see Mauritius as being non-part of the African continent, but we are part of those 54, I think, African countries. And even on the timing difference, we are not like a huge difference. But one thing which is very important when choosing a Mauritian banking partner, of course, is again coming back is on the understanding of Africa. It is very important that you understand Africa, because there are a lot of misunderstanding, if I can say, about the onboarding of various African businesses, onboarding of African investors. And the key importance is that once we do understand those requirements, it becomes very simple. So for an African, I would say, client looking uh, to select a banking partner in Mauritius, the onboarding side is one thing, and once the onboarding side is done, looking after those investment and transactional aspect is key. Because of course, when clients will be selecting a partner, definitely they will be googling around those banks in Mauritius. But it's good to check who are those banking partners of that Mauritian bank, what are their presence in Mauritius. The only fact, the very simple fact that we have access to all those African markets, we have our shareholders in those countries, it is already a very good message that Bank One is here for Africa. But if I can say it from a purely African business side, they need to see the access, they need to see uh, the onboarding, of course.
Thank you very much, Kush and Hasti, for your time. It's been very insightful. You've poured out lots of information out there. I have some questions from the guest. Just before I go there, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of the webinar, and I'll just take some questions from you. The topic we are discussing is Mauritius banks and African businesses, unveiling the key criteria for establishing a beneficial and smooth banking relationship, coupled with investment solutions. So, Kush and Hansley, I believe that most of the questions that I'm seeing here, you've already answered them. For example, I take from an anonymous attendee that says that, what's your timeline for setting up a bank account? There are circumstances where I think I already talked about it, where banks will say a week, but sometimes take months. And I think, Kush, you touched on that question. Do you want to touch on that again for the guest in terms of your
Yeah,
timelines and transactions? Yeah.
sure. In fact, when it comes to a private client, it's very simple. I mentioned it's not more than 48 hours. When it comes to corporate accounts, definitely we are targeting in the presence of all documentation, duly
Yeah.
certified and everything. We are talking around a week, but again, of course, it is very important and crucial that the bank does have those KYC requirements, um, and then we can definitely commit on that 1 week. In the presence of all those documents, it's very simple. I can confirm that 1 week should be fine to proceed with onboarding. And again, when it comes to maybe certain businesses, some businesses are very huge, and the structure is very it's enormous structure, a lot of other businesses within the group. So of course it's very important to understand the whole structure, the group, how
Right.
each business units meet up and is related to each business unit. So definitely for some complex structures it might take a little more time, uh, but again, if we have all the documents for a normal, simple structure, should not be long.
Well, I think that also answers the question for the second uh, guest that says that, how long does it, I mean, does it take to open a bank account with Bank One? And normally cases. And I think you mentioned that, Kush. You said, I think within 3 weeks and or 20 or 24, 48 hours, right? If I'm correct. Can you reiterate that? I think this person didn't get that well.
Yeah, in fact, for some private clients, since it is going to be on the digital platform and everything is there, so 24 hours should be fine.
Right. And we'll take the final question and then we'll come to the end of the webinar. So just to reiterate again, I think this question, I've got it many times. Very interesting. The question is, how can Bank One support African businesses that are looking to expand into Mauritius? What value do you bring to such businesses? We answered that, but Kush, that question seems to be much more interested, and I think the guests want to know a bit more. Touch on that finally, and then we'll come to the end of the webinar.
No problem. In fact, we spoke a lot about investment, of course.
Yeah.
Quick overview on the investment side. It's about various asset classes, listed equities, African Euro bonds, corporate bonds, US Treasuries, mutual funds, ETFs, and structured products. But the bank in itself, we offer a number of other services. It can be from pure trade finance opportunities. It can be like letter of credit, SBLC. It can be from any kind of loans facilities, because we're touching base from the purely investment and the private banking point of view. But we also have the international banking and the corporate banking teams, which we work hand in hand, and who can definitely assist on any kind of trade finance requirements. So Bank One is a one-stop shop. We're not going to tell you that we're the biggest bank in Mauritius, but we do mean business. And we mean business in the sense that we do understand Africa. We have our presence through our partners. We do travel a lot to a number of African countries, and the last of those trips are from Ghana, whereby we met with a number of, I would say, clients, prospective clients, who are very much interested in their country. And the good thing is that they now aware of what the country can offer in terms of tax incentives, in terms of access to international investments, of, like I mentioned, trade finance, purely trade finance opportunities. So it's a whole package that we provide if those clients, African businesses, are not looking for purely investments or private banking services. So definitely, and looking maybe for purely trade finance, our team from the trade finance are there as well, so they can assist.
Beautifully said. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Hansley Rathbone and Kush Bidasi from Bank One, bringing some great perspective into the banking in Mauritius, basically how we can ensure a smooth banking relationship and also seamless onboarding process for entrepreneurs and businesses in the African continent. My name is Michael Ajay, your host. I'm an international business development specialist for Orama Corporate Services, a management company that specializes in incorporating your company in Mauritius, trusts, and also fund administration, and amongst many others. If you have any further questions, feel free to drop us an email on info@oramacorporate.com. And we will reach out to you if you also want to have a relationship with Bank One. We're also very happy to, liaise you with them. You can send us an email or just contact us and we'll get in touch with you and we'll explain to you into details, or we'll put you in touch with the team that will happily, they'll happily assist you. After they've already mentioned, they are Pan-Africanists, they are visionaries, they are looking into Africa. They're here to help you, using Mauritius as a springboard to leverage your businesses. No foreign exchange control policies here in Mauritius, and also has some very strong international banking system and facilities that can help your business thrive. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of the webinar. We look forward to seeing you in the future webinar. Thank you very much, both Hansley and Kush. Thank you, Bank One, and thank you, Orama, for the opportunity availed. Thank you all.
Thank you, Michael, for hosting us.
Thank you, Michael.
Yes.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.